I oftentimes get the question, Joy, like, what do I do if I get to be old and alone and just end up with cats? Like, literally, I've gotten that. Which ultimately, I know those people are going, Joy, what do I do if my life becomes your life? And I haven't gotten to the stage where I've gotten cats yet, but I thought of my good friend Kristen because she has entered into that stage. I don't know, I guess I just wanted to tell those people that asked that to kind of reframe some of their thinking, and also just for us to kind of share what we actually tangibly do in this season when we're not with somebody. Because I feel like, Kristen, you kind of take life by the reins. She's a designer at, I don't know if I can say the name, it rhymes with Madidas.
They'll never get it.
They'll never get it. And yeah, I mean, you were in a long-term relationship, and that is no longer. And so what have you kind of done in this season of aloneness? There we go.
Wow. I guess for me, it was, I guess I should say, like a really great decision for me to end that relationship, and it was one where I felt so much of God's peace. It was agony going through it, but then once through it, that just felt so good. So I've just been really trying to remember that in the times when it does feel awkward and lonely sometimes.
And you kind of both felt that way.
Yeah, and that's the thing I feel like was the biggest answer to prayer, was that it was totally mutual, and that was really such a blessing. So that's part of my story right now. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do I, move forward with that thankfulness and also expectancy of good things to come, but also knowing that I gotta be okay if it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
you've kind of dove into some things that you had kind of neglected for a little while, right? Like you started drawing for fun again.
Yeah, for fun, yeah. Bringing in some of that creativity that I had kind of left aside because I have a creative job, but sometimes it's more fun to tap into stuff that you're not being asked to do. I do my nails a lot.
Yes, she does. I don't know if you've seen
nail
on
art.
my Instagram, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally the first time that because I usually just pretty plain Jane with my nails. And Kristen was like,
pushing the envelope.
Let me paint your nails, because I'm not going to lie, I've got great nail beds. Do you want to zero in on that?
Ideal.
And she literally pulled out like jewels and like rainbows and fruit and different things like that. And it was actually, I was about to go on a date. And she was like, come on, let me just make it cool. And she like kept literally coming up with all these ideas. And I was like, no, let's just go with it. And literally like she's starting to paint my nails and it's like silent. And I just hear her go like dead serious. She goes, so no fruit?
Sort it out there.
I didn't want to weird the guy out. And it didn't last. So maybe if I would have had the fruit.
Next time. It's always fruit.
Okay, yes. And you also did something called Heart Spark.
Yeah, that was a really great program that I've been doing several of their different classes, and it's just an opportunity to be more, self-aware about answering questions like, what do you want? Like, that's a really hard question for me to answer, and so it helps you identify like what you bring naturally, and that was just something that's been really energizing to me, to not focus on what I need to change about myself and why I didn't show up this way in this relationship, and why, all of that is sort of like my past phase, and I'm in this embracing how God made me and being okay with not being perfect, and then even looking forward to ideally a relationship where I'm loved for all those things, and that's just been that's kind of where the drawing thing came from. It's just like all those things that feel good to me. The people, I've just really put a lot of people in my life that make me feel good about who I am without having to try real hard.
Yeah.
Like you. And I've been doing ballet.
Oh yeah, she has a recital this weekend.
I do. It's pretty exciting. I'm a countess.
Yeah. And it's not even like, those are the kind of things where it's like you think, oh, I can't start ballet when I'm, 30 years old or whatever. But like literally it's through like Parks and Rec. And it's been like
there's
kind
like
of
old people
comedy,
in my class.
hasn't it? Yeah.
It's totally hilarious. So I just decided that, it's a very sad thing to go through, and that was a very hard time, but also it just gave me the opportunity to counter that with all the good things that I can identify now in my 30s that make me feel good, and just do more of them. Yeah. And then ultimately, in theory, like I'm a more full person, and just growing, and then those things will come around my life when the time is right.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like, sometimes we, especially in the Christian community, where it's like, what do I have to do to get married, you know? And we think that we have to like serve at the church and do things like that, which is important to serve, but also like the Lord, I believe, has designed us in ways, there's things that are fun for us and energize us and bring you life. And sometimes when you get into a relationship, you can lose some of those things. And so it's good to practice those things when we're not in a relationship and be aware to not lose that, or to be attracted to somebody who also will foster those things or engage in those things with us. So like for me, I know, when people are, what? Oh my gosh. Sorry. I think sometimes like in the church, we always have this mentality of like, what do I have to do to get married? I don't want to end up alone with a bunch of cats. And we start freaking out about something that's, not even a reality yet, except for a little bit for you, but
but I say embrace it.
Embrace it. Yeah, again, we've got this we have this idea that somehow to be alone is the worst thing ever, you know, and whereas Christ and Paul, like two pretty prominent figures in Scripture, were not married and did some incredible things. And I think sometimes when we let fear overtake us, like recognizing, like, no, I desire to get married, I desire to be in a relationship, don't push that down. If that's a desire of yours, but also just, not letting the loneliness consume you or freak you out to the point where you don't engage in the things that you've obviously naturally been gifted in, like ballet.
Right, so natural.
Or that bring you life. Like I started taking improv classes. Yeah. And I just thought it'd be kind of fun and push myself a little bit, and I like love it so much. Yeah. I love it so much.
We play games at parties.
Yes.
Improv games.
I force people to play.
I'm scared of this. Okay.
Then you love it, right?
Yeah, no, it's true.
And like biking and just different things where you can meet people who have similar interests as you. Like, go after it, and don't assume that you can't meet somebody that might work for you in just some extracurricular activity. Like my friend, I wanted to ask one of our guy friends, like what he's married now, but there was a long season of life where he was like, is this ever going to happen? Yeah. And I was like, Ben, what did you do like in that season of waiting? And he was like, two pretty prominent things was, he was like, I so wanted to like process life, and I was so excited to process life with my wife, but she wasn't coming. And he's like, so I started writing like a journal to her, and I know, he like gave it to her at their wedding, and all the guys were like, awesome.
Set the bar real high.
Yeah. But he was like, it was really good because it was an intentional way for me to like process things like with her, and have an idea of an actual person, so that then I wasn't just, necessarily dumping on a girl that I wasn't interested in, but I wanted to just process things with. And I was like, well, did that ever like create you to live in this like fantasy land where you were like, oh, my perfect bride someday, you know? And he was like, well, yes and no. I mean, he's like, to some degree I'm a romantic, so, but he goes, but I realized that was really healthy for me to do. But he goes, but yeah, sometimes creating this ideal woman in my head wasn't good. And he goes, and so I finally, and I think this is so cool, if this is your personality, he was like, I realized that I had no clue where or how God was going to bring me somebody, and that I couldn't put them into a mold. Sometimes I think we grew up in church and people would be like, write exactly all the things that you want in a future spouse and don't settle for anything less.
Right.
And there's good and bad to that. Because it's like, you shouldn't settle, but at the same time, like, if we're so formula driven and we no longer engage the Lord and say, let me be open, let my eyes be open, then we might miss that what he has for us doesn't look like what we were expecting. And so he bought himself a blank canvas and like set it up in his room just to remind himself, like, you don't know, what's coming. So Scripture and give thanks, like.
The cat is sniffing the man behind the camera.
I have to direct me.
Go.
There's cat butt. Nice.
Claws.
It's okay.
Love me. I'm alone.
It's alright.
I need human contact, but this will have to be the closest thing.
Kitty. Kitty, good boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Careful.
He gets a little squirrely.